What's up, guys? I'm Dan Langen. This is Baking with Dan, and today I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful pumpkin layer cake. So we're going to start with a pumpkin layer cake recipe that I came up with because I was looking for a really tight, crumbed, yet delicate melt-in-your-mouth pumpkin cake, which this recipe is going to deliver. And then after we bake this cake, we're going to frost it with a silky smooth, fluffy vanilla icing. It's going to be beautiful. Guests at your Thanksgiving or fall gathering tables are going to love it. So follow me along. We're going to start with our pumpkin layer cake. I have some granulated sugar, flour. This is mostly cake flour. There's also a little bit of all-purpose flour. The tiny bit of extra gluten in that all-purpose flour is going to give this cake nice structure, but still be light and fluffy. I have some buttermilk, which is at room temperature, some solid pumpkin pack, which is also at room temperature, my leavening, baking powder, baking soda, and salt, some softened unsalted butter, vanilla extract, pumpkin spice, as well as cinnamon, some eggs, and some vegetable oil. So this layer cake recipe is a reverse creaming recipe. That means all of the dry ingredients are going to start in my mixer bowl. So I'll take my flour. No need to sift it here because the mixing action will sift it for us. And I'm going to add in my granulated sugar and my baking powder, baking soda, and salt. And then I have some pumpkin pie spice. When you check out this recipe on my blog, bakingwithdan.com, I'll give the amounts of spice that I like to use in this recipe, but if you like your cake spicier, add more spice. If you like your pumpkin cake to be a little bit more delicately spiced, add a little less spice. So in with the spices. And then I'm just going to turn the mixer on low for about 30 seconds just to give all the dry ingredients a chance to incorporate and kind of sift together. So the butter is going to coat the flour particles and prevent too much gluten from forming in this cake, which means that once the cake is baked, it's going to be nice and tender, nice and fluffy. So I'll just add chunks of butter, and I'm going to blend this until there are no chunks of butter left. So this could take anywhere from 1 minute to 2 minutes, depending on how soft your butter is. We would call this a really mealy mixture. That means that the fat is completely blended into the flour and the dry ingredients. And when I take a handful of it and clump it together, it sticks together. So before I go any further, I'm going to mix together my buttermilk and my eggs. And I'll also add in my vegetable oil. You could use canola oil, vegetable oil. You could really use any flavor this oil. Grapeseed oil would work well. And then I'll also add in my pumpkin. I'm going to hit this with a couple of teaspoons of vanilla extract. Then I'll just whisk this up to combine it. So now I'll add about a quarter of my liquid mixture to my dry ingredients, and I'm going to turn the mixer on low just to get it starting to combine, and then I'm going to raise the mixer to medium high and let it whip. And that whipping action is going to incorporate lots of wonderful air into this cake batter so that it rises. Okay, so see how this has gotten really nice and light and fluffy? That's perfect. I know that there's air in the batter. All of the ingredients are nicely blended. That fat's nicely blended into there. We're gonna have a silky smooth cake batter. So I'm scraping my bowl and beater here just to get any bits of butter or those liquid ingredients nicely combined together. So with the mixer on low now, I'm going to add about half of my remaining liquid ingredients. So I add the other half of the liquid. I've greased my pans, bottom and side of the pan, and then I'm going to line the side with a strip of parchment paper that's about 2 inches wide. So that's the height of the cake pan. And the reason that I'm lining the sides of the pan is because I'm going to frost this cake in kind of a naked style or a nearly naked style. So I want the walls or edges of my cake to not stick. I want them to look really nice since they're part of the presentation. So once I have my parchment on there, I'm just going to give the parchment lining just a light spray with cooking spray. I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees, and I'm just going to evenly divide this batter into my 3 pans. So I'll give these pans a tap just to get any big air bubbles out. I find this also helps the cakes bake evenly in the oven. And then into the oven they go for about 30 minutes to 35 minutes. So my pumpkin cakes have baked up beautifully. A toothpick inserted in the center came out with just a couple of moist crumbs, and if I touch the middle, lightly, they spring back. So I have 3 layers of this pumpkin cake that have already cooled, and they've chilled for about 3 hours in the refrigerator, so they're nice and firm. They're gonna be easy to work with. So I'm going to fill a pastry bag with this vanilla icing, and I have just an open tip at the very end. You could use a star tip for this. You could use a coupler without any tip, but I'm just using an Ateco 808 tip. And I always like to start with a couple dollops of frosting right in the center of the cake cardboard, just to hold the cake in place. And then I'll center my first cake over top. And then I'm going to grab my second cake layer here. And what I like to do is kind of find which layer is going to be the top. If any of your cake's stuck in the pan, put that cake towards the center. We want the nicest layer to be on the top. But these both look great. So I will just pick the next one, put it on top. I'm going to use my hands to make sure that the edges are kind of even. And then I'll give the cake a nice press just until the frosting starts squeezing out the side a little bit. So the way that you achieve this nearly naked effect is to start by overloading the cake with icing and then just scraping the icing away. So I'll start by putting a good dollop of icing on top, and then just using my pastry bag and using the turntable, I'm just going to pipe icing onto the edge of the cake as I turn the turntable. No real specific amount or pattern here. And then from there, I'm just going to take my spatula straight up and down and just start spreading the icing and adhering it to the sides of the cake. If you don't have one of these plastic bowl scrapers, you can take a piece of fresh, clean cardboard poster board and cut a straight edge there to the height of your cake, and that makes a really great scraper. So you may have to go around a couple of times just to get a nice clean edge. And starting at the very edge, holding the bag straight up and down, about 1/2 inch from the top, I'm going to pipe some icing and pull up as I let go. So there you guys have it, my favorite recipe for fluffy pumpkin spice cake. If you have any questions, hit me in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Baking with Dan on YouTube. If you want the full recipe here as well as the method, head on over to my blog. And you can also get the recipe for this fluffy vanilla icing. I'll put the link in the description below. I hope you guys enjoy this pumpkin spice cake. Happy fall baking. Till next time, stay sweet.